expecting from this card. I gotta make up a rhythm. How would we get that in there? A flat bottom on that. Ouch. What scale would that be? It's Dorian, right? We need to make some sense. God damn it. Sorry. Need to be careful with a little bit. It was more dynamic. It's all kind of same volume. Interesting. Shouldn't be that surprising. What key are we now in? What would that be, maybe? Hmm? sure about that. Uh-oh. Boiro, boiro, something like that. I don't have it quite in the hands or in the head yet, but soon. A bit loud. Good day. I have a hard time pronouncing your name. Detson. I'm not sure how well I did pronouncing your name, sorry. Been staring at the keys. Sorry for not saying hi. I know it doesn't make absolute harmonical sense. It's also, I'm trying to drill some articulation and hand interdependency in my hands, and as you see, they are not very independent. Not so sure. I'm trying to understand Barry Harris, man. Barry Harris. Oh my God. Not so sure on how to would play this drill here. I need to think on some different alternate fingering, I think. But let's get back to that other thing. I was more consistent with that. I'm going through some blues changes and licks, practicing timing and articulation, and hopefully maybe some hand dependency, and practicing some b-boy-ish. I cannot call my noodles bebop. That's far from it. I'm trying to understand the basics of Dr. Barry Harris. Where would that go? What am I looking for? No, I don't think so. Could, but no. Maybe. Maybe different inversion though. Much better inversion. I guess so. That doesn't sound so pretty. What other inversion might we find? Also not great. Not great, not terrible, but not great for sure. Maybe root position. That's maybe not terrible in this situation. Oh my god, sloppy. I don't think there's supposed to be chromatic tone in there. One, two, three, and four, and let's do this. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. I guess so. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2. Not so sure now. Let's see. I can't count, you know. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and Ha 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 ha. Also not right. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and I'm not too sure how much I would understand the concept. I probably believe, do not take this with a grain of salt, it's probably a chromatic passing note that may not necessarily belong to the diatonic scale that we are mostly in, and it will probably be just used as an auxiliary note that all sounds super pseudo-eyelid, but basically whatever a composer kind of is stuck, he makes up some very complicated word to say, you know what, I'm just gonna play something random that is probably chromatically close and connected. Like, I know the first time when I heard people say something like tritone substitution, I was like, what the? And long story short, it's just saying basically like if we were in C, the tritone of C is F sharp or G flat, however you want to look at it. And the same idea like from secondary dominance, because music, at least in equal temperament, it moves in fifths or in fourths, because that is almost half the frequency or double the frequency, but not quite. That's why we can modulate and whatnot, but therefore also we lose like the perfect tuning. It gets more and more dissonant because it's kind of cheating harmony. It's not like exactly having whole number multiple integers of frequencies. It's not like we have a frequency of 1, 2, 3. It's like there is some floats that don't mass out quite. Anyway, I think probably still the thing about approach shot is it is maybe not like You say you want to learn land maybe on a one. I have to look it up. I'm guessing, kind of. It's not that I haven't heard that word before, but I believe maybe also in the context of bebop, I think you are, maybe if you are asking that question. I could tell you two channels where you might really get excellent information from that. That is Open Studio, but say approach notes or enclosures. The context I believe that you are asking that from probably mostly is bebop, I think. Say we want to land on a certain note. Maybe we want to land on G, which is the 5 of our chord, right? Say that is the note that we want to hit on the next beat. Then I guess an approach note would be, if we are playing a melody, what could we do? We could be playing, of course, all the chord tones. 1, 2, 3, 4. But that's probably getting boring real fast. So we have to find a way to maybe also create some tension, and that can be done like by using maybe an outside note. First note that comes to mind usually to me is always the note that I want to hit and like the note right next to it, 1/2 step above, or in fancy words, tritone substitution. Like say we are in a key change in C, and we want to play a 2-5-1. C is our 1, C dominant is our 1. Let's say we better have a minor chord there. D minor 7 is our 2, okay. Could also play it like so. That's just the inversion of it. Then we could go from C dominant to this inversion. Still our 2 chord. Looks major, isn't? Well, yes, it is major, but yeah, same but different. What's our G chord then gonna be? Maybe like so. If we move in that direction, it's a bit too muddy here. I need to work on spread voicings. But say we want to have a 4-chord progression. We don't want to play just this 2-5-1. One thing that we can always do is, say we would have a C dominant chord. We could always be playing a diminished chord before we play our 1 again. And I'm trying to understand Barry Harris. Diminished chords and diminished 7s are, I think, like your most important chords anywhere, because they connect to anything. Let's look at this diminished chord. It can become 4 different dominant chords if we lower them. So if we lower D flat, we get C dominant. Let's go back. Let's lower the third note. Let's lower E to E flat. What do we get? We get E flat dominant. Barry Harris was a mad genius, I'm telling you. I just understand 1% of that. Okay, and so on. What do we get if we lower the G? We get, yeah, it looks ugly now because I didn't put it in the key, but let's rather call this G flat for some reason. I probably prefer flats, and it looks rather, hold up, am I missing one? No. Yeah, probably would call it, anyway, what we call it, it's the same thing. Or lowering B flat to A. But still coming back to your question of approach notes or these enclosures, it's maybe using some other chromatic notes. If we are in C and I play a blues in A, well, the A minor blues we could play, or the C major blues, same thing, different start. Then we could try to think about ways to find maybe interesting ways to get there, maybe. Often it's like playing around the note and trying to get there. I cannot tell you how true or authentic it is for the context of bebop, but I strongly recommend you check out some real bebop guys. They will probably tell you exactly what an approach note is. Hello there. Not much, trying to catch a tune or two. Let's go back to the diminished and then try to play some different licks. Always choosing. First, we can go in between playing D flat diminished, and then we always choose a different dominant. Sometimes we take C dominant, sometimes we take E flat dominant, and so on. And then we test out some different blues licks against that. Not quite sure what we would be using over this. I don't think I will be putting... what blues scale would be probably appropriate? What is this? E flat dominant, right? Maybe the C minor blues scale. Because what? E flat is, or E flat and C minor are parallel. If we play E flat major, if we start that in C, we play C minor. They walk in parallel. Let's try that again. Going to D flat diminished 7, and then always choosing a different dominant. Okay, let's try something on E flat dominant. Also, what could we probably do if we are in E flat temporarily? What's the 5 of E flat if we want to play something Mixolydian over that? The 5 of E flat is B. Maybe, if the theory is correct, maybe we can get away playing maybe either B flat blues or D flat blues. Probably D flat blues. With your ears. I'm a by ear player first, and I'm struggling with theory. That's why I got this app to help me learn music theory also in reverse. YouTube and some books, but first of all, it's all about your ears. You don't need theory, it can just be helpful. But it also can be a hindrance. I think often theory is a hindrance for a long time, and then it gets better. Because maybe we would have found the blues scale faster if we hadn't thought about it, but tested it. but there's also really infinite resources to learn music theory for free, which are really excellent. There's a good site, I think it should still be for free. It's called musictheory.net. And there's also like a million apps to play with. Sometimes on commute I play a music theory app that's like an arcade game, and I'm training to become a better reader because I read super slow. Like if this was a classical piece, oh my god. But in jazz, you mostly have like a melody line and a chord symbol, and it's kind of like reading guitar tabs. You're reading music, but actually you're not really reading music. It is, say, let me pause this. It is a mixture of both. You look, maybe, I would begin really just with the major scale, because I think that's all where it comes from, probably. Like, at least in our music system. I'm thinking about what we're currently looking at. We're looking at a piano layout. If we have an octave where one note is our fixed pitch and the next note is twice the frequency, or looking at it reverse, this is going back, this is half the frequency. We have chopped up this interval into 12 bits. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So, forgot to count the 1. But we have 12 pitches chopped up in there. How do we go about learning theory? The only thing that we actually need to worry about is not the specific name of any note, really. But say, arbitrarily, we can choose either one of these. They are all equal. We can choose either one as the harmonic center for whatever reason. This is just like home, where we come back to. And even if it's maybe temporary in the composition or what we are improvising. If we are calling this note here now our 1, it is also a specific name, A flat, but what I think is probably most useful is trying to be able to abstract from a note letter name and trying to understand just the relationship of how do these different intervals sound. What do I mean by intervals? Just the distance, say, from one key to the next. Let's just go through and listen to different intervals. What's the smallest interval that we can have? 2 notes that are exactly neighbors of one another. It's a minor second. Kinda crunchy, huh? They bite one another pretty bad. Sometimes it can be good, sometimes it could be also very terrible too. It depends on context. But it's a kind of edge to it. Listening and ingraining these different qualities and comparing to them to one another is actually all what music is about. Knowing what these different intervals sound like and how they play with one another. And also one other very important thing. As I said, we make up this octave in 12 bits. What's probably most interesting is complementary intervals, because they are the same. If we move in either direction, it is essentially harmonic the same movement. If I go from C to F, which is an interval of a perfect fourth, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 half steps, is kind of the same as if I was going down a fifth. Because what is the octave? What interval completes our octave here? F would complete the octave. So we learn that the complementary interval going like whatever it is. If it was a third, then the complementary interval would be a minor 6. If it's a minor third, the other interval would be a major 6. That is like the whole idea and concept about inversions, and also why we find so many melodies and also scale exercises where you have maybe, let's say, the left hand that goes through the circle of fifths. That is nothing else but saying fancily, if we are looking at C major and we give every note just a number. C is our home. We call that 1. We forget about letter names now altogether. All that's important is the relationship between the scale degree, where we start from. What place in the sequence does this pitch belong to functionally? If this is A or B, it doesn't really matter. That's why we can play a major chord, say, there, or if we just exactly shift this pattern by half a step, it's essentially the same. Because these relationships haven't changed. If I construct an interval of this is a minor third and this is a minor third, the quality of this is the same no matter what kind of note I will choose in the end, especially for diminished chords, because they are absolutely symmetrical. They kind of have no end. We can invert them. That is the same thing about these complementary intervals, which is most important, the basic idea about inversions. This is C major. We play C, E, G, or we play by number system. We play the root, the third, and the fifths. Now let's switch C into the next octave. Now we have the third of the chord on the bottom, the fifths in the middle, and the root at the top. If I shut up and I just play both of these versions, we can very clearly hear that is from the essence the same chord. Yes, this sounds a little bit brighter. Why? We play a little bit higher frequencies, but also our intervals are a bit more open. Still, it's not C major. This is C major. So is this. And so is this. I've found that learning about inversions especially is first mostly confusing for the eyes, a little bit also for the hands. But what gets confused most at first, I think, is the eyes have a problem with it. Because it might look unfamiliar, but it doesn't sound that unfamiliar. If we close our eyes, to me, it sounds pretty much really all the same. Yes, I can't even tell the difference, but you know what I mean. What is probably most important is learning the major scale and the minor scale as parent scales for basic harmony and functional harmony that we use, at least like in our small world. There's so much music out there. There's music with quarter-tone, microtone music. There's a whole lot. There's a whole world. Also, this still, like I say, I don't even know exactly what I mean by equal temperament cheats perfect tuning, by being not like perfect multiples, but having floats. Let's not worry about that and try to just understand what we need understanding. We need to understand how these different chords that we can build on a scale, in this case say C major, how do they sound? Let's start with C major. Let's move this pattern of always skipping a note and see what it sounds like. This is our 1 chord, C major. Let's do that with the 2. It's D minor. Now we go to the 3, and so on and so on. How do they all sound? And what are they? The 1 of a major scale is a major chord. You got the root, a major third, and a perfect fifth. Especially, what are they? What chord qualities naturally live on what scale degree? If we adjust what they usually call it stacking thirds. And also, it doesn't matter, we are speaking generic thirds, because this is a third, a major third, but so is this. This is a minor third. Let's not worry about which kind of third, at least not all the time. Most of the time we will worry, especially if it's a major or minor third. But just thinking about the broader concept of stacking thirds. That's the first row of thirds that we're stacking. C major, 1 major. In the context of jazz, if you were into jazz, we're probably not going to play all that many triads, let's be honest. What we'll be playing most, or very often, especially in the context of blues, but so much, is a dominant chord. A dominant chord is nothing else but saying, I have a major triad, and on top of a major triad, play another chord, a minor third, which is what? In relation to our root, it is the flat 7. It's a minor 7, that's all. If I leave out the 5, which is also very common for piano, if you comp for yourself or others, shell voicings, we're not playing the whole chord, we're just playing the shell. So we remove some inner notes, maybe sometimes for reasons of voice spreading, so we can get more range out of the instrument and to lose redundancy. Also, as bass frequencies are thus so much more powerful, we can play so many notes at the same time or in as close of intervals as we could hear. Here we could play C major all together and it sounds fine, let's say. We can hear it and distinct its quality from if we did the same thing starting on A, which is the relative minor of C. We can hear and distinguish the major and the minor quality against these two scales. If we tried to do that somewhere here, we couldn't hear anything anymore. It's just mud. We need to spread out our intervals to still hear it, or they cannot happen simultaneously. Either or a combination of both. Let's go through what's called the diatonic chords, or Barry Harris would just call it the chords. That is nothing else but walking through just a note of this. This is our one chord. We play either a major or a minor 7, but let's not alter any notes. We just play it straight vanilla, no inversions, nothing. One of the most important things is understanding and hearing what it just sounds like if you go through all the diatonic chords. 1 major 7, 2 minor 7, 3 minor 7, 4 major 7, 5 dominant. We need to be able to tell all of these apart. They must become family. And it should also sound absolutely familiar. If I shut up, we could hear. Six minus 7. 7 is special. It's half diminished. It looks weird and annoying at first. It spells B minus 7 flat 5. What does that even mean? Let's look at it. It just spells out how it is constructed. B is the beginning, it's the root of our chord. Then it's a minor chord. What do we stack? We stack a minor third. And then what comes next? We stack another third. If we look at our stock chords, let's look at C major. We get C, our 1, E, our third, and G, our 5th. Let's alter a couple of notes to compare stock chords. This major triad is one of the basic colors and building blocks of our Western 12-tone music system. Let's lower the middle note from a major third to a minor third. In context with our 5th, C major, C minor. Let's play a different inversion. We could play it to the octave. We're doing nothing else, we're just doubling our tonic, so our root note. But let's leave this top note out. Let's continue listening. Stock chord number 1, major. Stock chord number 2. So the major chord constructs what? Root, major third, and then we stack a minor third. So we could also say a major chord is the sum of a major third plus a minor third, if we want to look at it that way. Now we lower our major third. Now we get what? We have the intervals reversed. Now we have a minor third and a major third. All always respectively to the tonic, right? Because we can do and make inversions happen. So stock chord number 1, major triad. Stock chord number 2, minor triad. Let's lower our 5th. That's what's called flat 5, because the B sign just tells us in music, from whatever note that you see that is spelled there, because if you look at the music stuff, there's only so many lines, and we have 12 pitches, so there must be some hidden pitches. This is how we access these hidden pitches. Or if there's a key signature, then it is already spelled out for all the notes that live on there. So same like you can see here in QWERTY. If we just look at this E, this is E natural. On the staff, we can only see the generic note. But if I were to play E flat now, we can see the note stays on the line, but added to it is a little B. That just means from the generic note E that lives there, at least like in this treble clef signature, you need to modify that note by going down 1. So back again and let's rehash. Stock chord number 1, major triad. Stock chord number 2, a minor triad. Let's lower our fifths, make it a flat 5. A diminished chord, and if you start going down the rabbit hole with this, Barry Harris, I will be talking about him a lot. Let's say that. He was a master pianist and educator. And it's all about diminished chords. The minor third is that interval on diminished scales. Because what is happening here, our chords before were not symmetrical. If I invert either of this, the major or the minor triad, I can still hear the quality of it, or could maybe guess maybe in what context it belongs. But a diminished chord, because you can mirror it, it kind of has no identity. You know what I mean? Maybe I couldn't say exactly what key it would be in if I hear a major chord and I don't have perfect pitch and there is no other context. But I could guess a couple of keys maybe that it might belong to because they share some notes. With a diminished chord, it could be from everywhere. Like, where do I begin? It already sounds the same. It has no end. That's why it's so practical. And when that's now, and I hope DHATSN, I can't pronounce your name, sir, asked earlier about approach notes. That's why inserting diminished chords is so useful, because they can kind of become anything. Like, I'm trying to understand this basic thing from, at least for Barry House, it seemed to be basic. A diminished chord connects, like, if we lower every one of these notes, we get 4 different dominant chords. If I lower D flat to C, I get C dominant. If I lower the E, I get E flat dominant. If I lower the G, we get F sharp dominant or G flat dominant, however you want to call it. And so on. It's super fucking interesting. But I hope I didn't lose you. Really, what I think and what I try to do often, because sometimes I think I skipped some fundamentals. Last day I was struggling to play and walk some minor triads with my left hand. Say I'm in E flat major, yeah? I had a problem, when I'm still having this problem, just to go like... Oops, already a mistake, and that's really, really, really sloppy. Stuff like that must be second nature, hopefully one day, not too far away. But being able to, it may seem sometimes a little bit boring, but I think really just the bread and butter foundation. Being able to do whatever, but being able to actually really do that on call and not to play random muscle memory and not really know what you do, but here in hindsight, like kind of fingeritis, as it was called, to just go muscle memory and play some loop that's fast, but not actually being able to control it. That's not the idea. We want to be able to do this ideally with closed eyes and to hopefully be able to play what we hear inside, because probably we hear some kind of melody that we're trying to get out. Sometimes we explore stuff. Maybe the division is not always there. But very often I find if I play half the notes, I can actually listen better to what I actually really want to play, because sometimes maybe you make a restriction exercise and say, okay, I just want to play F major, nothing fancy. I want to just practice articulation and efficiency, and then start combining it with my right hand. Trying to think about different lines that are possible. But I lost my train of thought. I wanted to say something else. Not quite sure how much I make sense. It's hard to tell how much sense I'm making, because we're not in a real conversation where I can see your face and you can ask without zero latency. What point did I wanted to make? I hope I had a point to make. Okay, let's go back to what I think is really probably about it. Learn to play the major scale in every key, and the minor scale too. These two are your best friends now. Learn what it sounds like when you go through the diatonic changes of a key, and what each chord quality is and what it sounds like when you are just stacking the generic thirds of your scale. 1 major 7, 2 minor 7, 3 minor 7, 4 major 7, 5 dominant, 6 minor 7, 7 half diminished, minor 7 flat 5. And then we come back to the 1, being sure that we can hopefully get fluid, playing arpeggios in all kinds of ways. Being familiar with all the inversions. Because after we've played enough inversions, we learn there's actually not that many chords, actually. Because at first say, this looks like a chord, yes, it is a chord. No, I mean, and it's not that it's not. But let's bring this, because it's very important. This is a chord. This is a C minor 6. We got the root of it, a minor third, a perfect fifth, and a major 6. This construction will always be a minor 6, whatever key. This is a minor 6. Let's bring our top note, our major 6, let's bring that down. When we're new to music theory, these two look like they're something completely different. They're not. They're brothers and sisters, kind of mirror images. Not exact mirror images, but somewhat. You know what I mean? The note material itself has not changed. That's why it's very important to learn inversions, because then we can see how so many chords are basically the same chord. In Barry Harris' theory especially, say we go through these diatonic changes, right? I got my 1, I got my 3, I got my 5, I got my 7. I'ma shut up and walk these through this. And then I show you a new scale, which is, sorry, also C major, or a major scale, plus one more note. So this scale will have one more tone in it. And then the scale becomes kind of just 2 chords. It's really, it's ridiculous. It's so ridiculous. I've been looking at this piano for 13 years, and I think really the last 2 or 3 days I checked out more Barry Harris, and I was like, no, man. I was looking at it all this time. How didn't I see that? It's kind of obvious after it. Anyway, 1 major 7, 2 minor 7, 3 minor 7, 4 major 7, 5 dominant, A minor 7, B minor 7 flat 5, or half diminished, same thing. But, well, as I say, it looks like a lot at first, but getting familiar with inversion will make life so easy, because we understand B minor 7 flat 5, which looks just abstract. And before we get familiar with this, looking at it, it is just not helpful for music, actually, really, at first. But once we can understand that this is essentially the same as playing this, maybe. Sorry, I'm doing something wrong also. Better do it right when I demonstrate it. Hold up, we were on half diminished, right? Right. It was right, I'm sorry. When we understand that a minor 7 flat 5 chord is the same inverted as a minor 6, then we start to see that there are not that many different chords. Yes, there's a kind of infinite, but if we consider or start to, or I like to look at it as redundancies. It's not a completely new chord because the material hasn't changed. There is no note. If I bring a different note here, or if I move the note up or down, yeah, did it change? No, not really. And I think that is probably the best way to start looking at theory. So Dr. Barry Harris theorized that let's make a new scale. Like I said, if we just walk these diatonic chords, or Barry would just call them the chords. If we walk our 1 major 7, 2 minor 7, when we walk these in the 6 diminished scale, we get a much easier time. The diminished 6 scale is a major scale, and what we add is what's extra in the name. If we go from our C to our 6 and we diminish it by half a step, we get A flat or G sharp. Let's call it A flat though, doesn't really matter. If we add this note to our scale, Cordy will call this the major bebop scale. Let's still call it, it's not wrong. Many things have too many names anyway. Let's call that still the diminished 6 scale. Let's construct our chords with the same rule that we did for our major scale, by always skipping every other note in our scale. On C, this is D, skipping D, skipping A flat. So our first new chord now is not a major 7, but a major 6. What's our 2 chord now? Our 2 chord before was a D minor 7. What is it now? It's D diminished 7, and now the party starts. Now we're in business. Because Barry theorizes like this whole scale only has 2 chords, he says. It has a major 6. It's got the notes C, E, G, and A. That is one half of it. Hi, Recon. And then we have D diminished. That is the other one. And we can walk block chords all day long by just playing always inversions of these. Before, it looked cumbersome. 1 major 7, 2 minor 7, 3 minor 7, 4 major 7, 5 dominant, 6 minor 7, 7.5 diminished. But now, on our new scale, with the added diminished 6 here, our first chord is a major 6. 1 major 6, 2 diminished 7. What is our 3 chord? It's a major 6, but it just inverted. And the whole scale, it alternates between a major 6 chord, a diminished chord, major 6, diminished, major 6. This one looks like it's the odd one out, but like I was saying before, a minor 7 is the same as a major 6. Because what is the complementary interval of a minor third? What completes the octave? It's a major 6. Same thing. So now our chords are 2 chords that we just move around. Major 6, diminished, major 6, diminished, major 6, diminished, minor 7, which is a major 6, and then diminished, and back to it. Oh, maybe this would need a new scale. But which? Also not so sure if we really should go there. And one other thing. Probably we're in the wrong diminished family. That's not our diminished family at the moment. Say we are in... Haven't quite decided yet, actually. It could, maybe. I'm not sure how much sense I'm making. And also, essentially, really, to play, you never needed theory. To play, you only need your ears and your heart. Because we don't need to look at we don't need to look at super abstract, weird chord names to be able to play music. Probably it would be better if we didn't. How are you doing, Recon? Hope you're having a great day. I don't want to play that. I forgot. We were earlier in the blues thing. So long story short, you didn't need theory to play. You only need to familiarize your hands and your ears with your instrument to differentiate between different colors and chord qualities and tensions. What it's called finally doesn't really matter. But if your hands can recall how to recreate that certain color, feeling, or emotion, you're in business. What's it called is secondary. Also, finally, even if you go this theoretic route, which just doesn't hurt either, but when you actually really play, you're not thinking about the theory anymore. Maybe sometimes I'll be going like, I wonder what blues scale would fit. But once I arrive at the idea that I think like, hey, if I'm playing a C minor 6, probably a blues in C minor would maybe work. But after that thinking, while I'm playing the C minor blues scale, if I find it matches, I'm not thinking about it in the theoretic way about anymore. At first, if I'm thinking like, I'm not so sure, which is the right scale that could match, after theoretically thinking about it, and then coming to my conclusion, or maybe I don't even think about it, I could just also try iteratively, empirically. Just press every note until you're happy. Which is the right one? I don't know yet. Sounds good to me. What note do I feel compelled to coming back to? I mean, I can tell you for sure that I was not thinking about theory when I was playing those blues licks. I was not thinking about anymore, am I going to the 1 or am I going to the flat 3 first? Or should I play the flat 5? That's not what I'm thinking about anymore. And then you just make up stuff. Because after a while, after you think about it theoretically, where is it located, and familiarizing your hands and ears somewhat, after that bit, the theory is not important. Then after that, you just want to feel. Because, like, especially with blues, I think blues is maybe one of the best things to play and practice. Because the blues is so free and so playful. You get to discover. Because there's not that many notes. I mean, look at it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's not that many notes. So probably you're not going to construct the craziest harmony with this. So what does it come to? It comes to the feeling and expression. We're not reinventing the wheel. We're just trying to roll smoothly. I'm just testing out stuff. Change key into we're in a blues in C major. What I'll probably be playing is a lot of C dominance, and also because the relative minor of C is A, that means also if we're in the C major blues, we're also at the same time in the A minor blues. Same principle about relativity applies across. So means if I can do 1, 2 flats, okay, I'm doing this now just for demonstration's sake. 1, 2 flats, 3, 3, 5, 6. That means I could start the same sequence, of course, on the 6 for the minor tonality. Then we make, because this gets boring fast, it will happen very fast automatically that you will find you will just start to invent stuff, and then you hear stuff that you heard on recordings and whatnot. And I got lost somewhere. Let's just say, my problem number 1 is hand interdependency. I think theoretically I'm starting to connect some dots, but really doing the basics. What you live off most is the bread and butter in any domain. All the flashy stuff, the experts rarely use. It is just a cherry on top. But being able to walk arpeggios clean which I'm not. I know where they live, but it's not like this is super stable. Often I'm like, what finger am I gonna use? And then I'm like, dude, you wanna play jazz and you cannot play a diatonic scale like blindfolded on a handstand? That must be second nature, because it was like with language and grammar. We are cut off from the world if we can't communicate properly. And in music, this is our vocabulary. If I cannot walk every which way and in every key, I got a problem. And like, this is stuff that I'm struggling with. Like, seriously. Meanwhile, sometimes I can do stuff that looks flashy. Maybe sounds good, sounds pretty. But the basic stuff is the most important. Stock chord number 1, major triad. Stock chord number 2, minor triad. Our two basic colors. A variation of a minor quality, a diminished one. Also, we could do it also differently. Another cool quality. Let's alter another note. Let's augment the fifths. This is the augmented chord. So, our chords that we know the qualities are number 1, major. 2, minor. 3, diminished, and augmented. That's basically it. What else do we have? Let's go through it. This is C major. This is C major 2. This is C major 7. This is C dominant. This is C major 6. This is C minor 6. This is C half diminished. That's pretty much all the qualities we have. And everything else above the octave, when you see 9 and whatnot, like I told you, people wanted to make life easy by making it look more horrible, but actually the numbers are really helpful. It's just a recipe. We always count respectively to what we call home for that time. So if we give C the number 1, well, if the next octave of C, if we need to count above, is 8, 9, 10, 11, and so on. We just keep counting. That's it. This is C7. C completing the octave is 8. This is 9. If I lower it, it's a flat 9. And so on, and so on, and so on. It's just a numbers game. But hopefully, as soon as our hands are somewhat happy, and our ears too, of course, our ears must be happy first. The hands are not as important. Would be good if the hands are happy too, but the ears need to be happy. I'm not thinking about all this mumbo jumbo. Like, please do watch videos from Barry Harris. I'm going to change, and I'm going to steal what he often loved to say. That's ridiculous. Almost with that intonation. I love this man because, like, I keep repeating him. I think I have to make a t-shirt or something. He says, nowadays, people expect you to play exactly what's written down. That's ridiculous. I'm telling you, it's ridiculous. I will rename this channel to That's Ridiculous. See now? I got excited. I wanted to be flashy. I wanted to show off. and all collapses. Don't play for applause. Play for the muse. Make it meaningful. Don't try to look cool. Try to sound good. Our job is to serve the music, not the other way around. And so on and so on. But I think I need to go to the 7-Eleven and feed my addiction. All right. So don't be stupid like me. Don't start smoking if you didn't already. And if you did, try to stop, yada yada. Always have the best advice for the next man. Happy practice. May the muse be with you. And what was the other thing? I kind of rephrased it somehow by saying our job is not to be flashy and be applauded, but to listen to the muse and serve the music. I forgot who it was. Or maybe it was a masterclass with Kenny Barron or someone else. Mastered anyway. He said he played with someone else and he said, the most beautiful way to phrase it, don't impress me, enchant me. Happy practice, peace. Catch you maybe later. Maybe 30 minutes or so, but I need to take a break. I talk too much. Also, talking is a huge problem. I think just basically in principle, because I kind of consider like everything is vibration and radiation. Like, let's be a little bit esoteric. But also we have limited compute. If I'm yapping, how am I supposed to listen to the muse, to what I play, or anything else in reality? Like, it is hard to receive a message when we are sending messages all the time. Maybe there will be an interference and everything gets mangled. Who knows? Anyway, catch you later. Peace.